Muito bem-vindo, muito bem-vinda a mais um episódio do Aprender Inglês Podcast, o melhor podcast para você aprender inglês com informações que se relacionam com o seu dia a dia. Meu nome é André e será um prazer estar com você em mais um episódio onde nós iremos explorar uma história e fazer comentários sobre a história em inglês. A partir desse momento, toda a história será em inglês. Caso você tenha dúvida, deixe nos comentários, será uma alegria poder te auxiliar, te ajudar a melhorar através desse conteúdo. Na história, nós ouviremos uma parte em inglês e faremos um comentário em inglês sobre essa parte também, usando palavras diferentes, explicações mais abrangentes sobre a mesma parte da história. So, let's go. Let's listen to the story.
The Little Moth in the Machine.
The Little Moth in the Machine. So, moth is an insect, is a bug, is a little animal, moth. And machine, anything that has usually not necessarily electricity, but anything that produces a result is a machine, right? So there are many different types of machines.
This is Elena. She is a teacher. She loves technology. Today, she is in the classroom with her student, Bit. Bit is not happy. His computer has a problem. My computer is slow, Bit says. It has a bug.
So it says that this is Elena. Elena is a teacher and she loves technology. Today, so in the day of the story, she's in the classroom with her student, Bit. So the name of her student is Bit. And Bit is not happy. His computer has a problem. So Bit's computer has a problem. And Bit says, my computer is low. It has a bug. So he says that his computer has a bug. His computer has a problem. So when Bit says, my computer has a bug, he means my computer has a problem. So
Elena smiles at Bit. Do you know why we call it a bug? She asks. Bit shakes his head. He does not know. Elena decides to tell him a very old story. It is a story about the first computer bug.
So when Bit says his computer has a bug, Elena smiles at him. Do you know why we call it a bug? So her question is, do you understand why when we have a problem in the computer, we call it a bug? She asks. Bit shakes his head. So he goes like, no. He does not know. He doesn't know why. Elena decides to tell him a very old story. So the teacher, Elena, is going to tell Bit, the student, a very old story. It is a story about the first computer bug. So the story is about the reason why we call a computer bug a bug.
Many years ago, Elena says, computers were very big. They were as big as a whole room. Bit looks surprised. He looks at his small laptop. Elena starts the story of a woman named Grace Hopper.
Many years ago, Elena says, so many years ago is like a lot of years, a long time in the past. She says, computers were very big. They were as big as a whole room. So the computers were very big. They were the size of a room. Imagine, imagine your bedroom. The computer was the size of a room. Bit looks surprised. So the boy, when the teacher says the computer is the size of a room, the boy is surprised. He thinks, wow, that's impressive. Computers were very big. He looks at his small laptop. So imagine a little computer. And that's a very interesting thing that in English, the computer that we can use when we go to places is called a laptop. In Portuguese, for example, we call it a notebook, but in English, a notebook is a like paper where you write. So a notebook is actually a book of notes, is a physical book of paper where you write. So it's a notebook. And the word laptop is for the portable computer. So Bit looks at his little laptop and thinks, that's insane. The computers were the size of an entire room, so big. Elena starts the story of a woman named Grace Hopper. So the teacher is going to tell the story about this woman called Grace Hopper.
Grace Hopper was a very smart scientist. She worked with the first computers. She was a pioneer. She used a machine called the Harvard Mark II. It was 1947, and the world was very different.
Grace Hopper was a very smart scientist. So the woman, Elena, the teacher, is going to talk about is Grace Hopper. She was a very smart scientist. She worked with the first computers. So her job was actually to work in the first computers, the beginning of computers. She was a pioneer. A pioneer is a person that starts something, is the person that's involved in the beginning of something. She used a machine or a computer called the Harvard Mark II. Probably the Harvard Mark II was developed at Harvard, probably because of the name. It was 1947 and the world was very different. So when Grace Hopper did that, the year was 1947 and everything was very different. Imagine, it was a long time ago, 1947.
One day, the big computer stopped working. Grace and her team were confused. They checked the wires. They checked the buttons. They checked everything. The machine was silent. It did not move. Grace.
One day, the big computer, the Harvard Mark II, stopped working. The computer was not working anymore. Grace and the team and her team, they were confused. They didn't know what to do. They checked the wires. The wires are the cables that connect things. They're called wires. They checked the buttons. The buttons are the things we press to turn on and off the things. They checked everything. The machine was silent. It did not move. The machine didn't move.
One day, the big computer stopped. Grace looked very closely inside the machine. Suddenly, she saw something strange. It was not a broken wire. It was not a bad button. It was a small, fuzzy moth. The moth was stuck inside the computer.
So she checked the cables, the buttons, everything, and she could not find the problem. But when Grace looked very closely inside the machine, so she was looking at the details, suddenly she saw something strange. So she realized, she observed something strange, different. It was not a broken wire. It was not a bad button. It was a small, fuzzy moth. So the wires, the cables were okay. The buttons were okay. The problem was a small, fuzzy moth, a little bug, a little insect inside the computer. That's why she saw something strange, something different. The moth was stuck, was there, stuck inside the computer.
Grace took the moth out very carefully. The moth was the reason the computer stopped. "Look," Grace said to her team. "We found a real bug in the machine." Everyone laughed because it was a funny discovery.
So Grace looked at the moth, at the bug, at the insect, and Grace took the moth out very carefully. So she got the moth and she took it out very carefully. The moth was the reason the computer stopped. So the problem on the computer was actually the insect, the bug, the moth. "Look," Grace said to her team. So she called everybody, the team, and said, "Look, guys, found the problem. We found a real bug in the machine. So we found a real insect, a real bug in the machine." Everyone laughed because it was a funny discovery. They were like, "Come on, it was not a cable, not a button, nothing technical. It was actually a bug." So it was a funny discovery. Everybody laughed. They thought it was funny.
Grace did not throw the moth away. She opened her notebook. She used tape to put the moth on the page. She wrote a note. "First actual case of bug being found." This was the start of a new word. Back in the classroom, Grace did not throw the moth away.
So Grace did not throw the moth away. She didn't get the moth and throw it in the trash. No, she got the moth and she did not throw the moth away. She opened her notebook. So she opened her notebook. She used a tape. Tape is what we use to stick things to the page. So she used the tape to put the moth on the page. So she got the moth, she got a tape and she attached, she put the moth on the page with the tape. And she wrote a note in her notebook. Remember, notebook, not the laptop. Notebook, the paper where we write with pen and pencils. And she wrote a note. First, actual case of a bug being found. So she wrote in her notebook, we found a bug here. And this was the start of a new word. So that was actually the beginning, the start of a new word. So the word bug already existed, but that was the beginning of the new word.
Way. She opened her notebook. She used tape to put the moth on the page. She wrote a note. First actual case of bug being found. This was the start of a new word. Back in the classroom, Elena finishes the story. So, Bit, she says, now we call every error a bug because of that little moth. Bit laughs. He is not frustrated anymore. He starts to fix his computer code.
Back in the classroom, back to the beginning, Elena, the teacher, finishes the story. She says, so Bit. She says, now we call every error a bug because of that little moth. She says, so that's why all of the problems, we call them bug because of the little bug, that little moth that was on Harvard Mark II, the big computer. Bit, the student, laughs. He thinks it's funny, like, come on. He's not frustrated anymore. So Bit is not frustrated anymore after the nice story. And he starts to fix his computer code. And after that, he starts to fix his computer code. He starts to fix his computer.
When we fix a computer, we call it debugging, Elena explains. Bit nods. He likes this word. Now Bit knows that even the best scientists find bugs. He is ready to learn more today.
And when we fix a computer, we call it debugging, Elena explains. So when we fix a computer, the name we call it is debugging, the opposite of a bug. We are fixing, we are removing the bug, we are debugging, she explains. Bit nods. He likes this word. So yeah, wow, I like it. That's nice. Now, Bit knows that even the best scientists find bugs. He is ready to learn more today. So the student understands, he likes the word, and he understands that even the best scientists, they also have problems. They also find bugs. And he's ready to learn more today. So he's ready to learn more after this experience. And this is the story of the first bug. I hope you liked it. If you have any questions, please let me know. And if you like this episode, follow for more and share it with a friend so your friend can also learn and we can also continue doing it. Thank you very much. I hope you have a very good one, and I'll see you in the next episode.